So I thought I'd recommend a film that it popped into my head this morning. It was vaguely topical, and it's John Frankenheimer's 1964 political thriller 7 Days in May, which is about an attempted coup in the United States. Oh, why could I have chosen this film?
Oh, I wonder.
Yeah,
could it be?
Yeah, it is. It's a different kind of coup. It's a military coup. It's a Cold War.
I haven't seen this movie. I haven't heard of this.
It's entertaining. It's not great, but it's not bad, and it's very entertaining. It has a great cast. It has Frederick March as President Lyman. You have your dueling leads of Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas is the good army guy trying to stop the coup that's being headed by Burt Lancaster. You've also got Edmund O'Brien as a kind of slightly crazy senator, but who's on the good side. And of course, because it's Edmund O'Brien, he chews all the scenery he can get hold of. Martin Balsam is in it, and so is Ava Gardner. Yeah, Ava Gardner's there too, and it's a really fun, slightly silly but very of its time film. 1964. It's the height of the Cold War. It's also, I think, interesting that they chose to make a film about a coup release a film about a coup a year after the Kennedy assassination.
Really? Oh shit.
Yeah, right. I mean, 64. It is the next year, so
Jesus.
that feels pretty cool. And it was. It has this. I think it was marketed as like this could happen, in 10 years, it could happen in 20 years, or it could happen tomorrow, kind of thing. I think it's slightly ahead of its time in that regard because Dr. Strangelove still hasn't come out, I think, at this point, and
I think Dr. Strangelove came out in 62. I may be wrong.
Oh shit! Oh, did it? Oh, sorry.
I might I'll look that up while you talk.
Yeah, but at least like films that are this sort of iconoclastic are still not the norm. And so, whereas I feel like this film's plot would have felt very at home in the sort of the paranoid post-Watergate 1970s. But as it happens, it's made in 64, and so it has that sort of 60s pre-Vietnam feel. And I think that's very interesting that even before the Vietnam War really gets going, that they're making films in America that are based on the sort of the idea of a military industrial complex that gets so big that it has to take over the government.
Nice.
And that, of course, that was something that Eisenhower warned against when he left office in 1961. Or whenever he made his speech, maybe it was 1960. So it's there's sort of food for thought there. In the end, the film isn't like that interesting in terms of like making you think about American politics and culture, but it's a well acted, well delivered thriller.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I would like to give it a watch.
What was the date on Strangelove?
I was wrong. You were right. It did come out in 64. This came out a month before. Strangelove came out a month before 7 Days in May.
That's it. That is interesting, and I think they would make they'd make a very good pairing. But Strangelove is like satire and absurd, and this is like way over the top kind of, this is what could happen, but only if like these things go hilariously wrong. Whereas there's a seriousness in this film that's dark, and I think it was produced by. It was produced by Edward Lewis, who also did Spartacus and Lonely Are the Brave.
Right,
and I think he wasn't it like.
Yeah, he actually contributed to ending the Hollywood blacklist.
Right, and Edward Lewis and Kirk Douglas worked closely together. Kirk Douglas was a bit of a, a bit of a campaigner, or a bit of a sort of agitator, activist against the Hollywood blacklist, and he hired Dalton Trumbo for Spartacus and things like that, and he was a liberal, and I think and in the best kind of a way, and I think he did a lot at this time to. To change attitudes, and so I think that this is in that production schedule, for want of a better word, that Kirk Douglas is kind of in at this point of producing films that are challenging perhaps certain ideas. So while I think it was probably overshadowed and has been overshadowed since by Doctor Strangelove, and rightly so. Doctor Strangelove is a much more important film, but
yes,
this is and also the interesting thing with Doctor Strangelove, of course, is it's a new generation of actors, a lot of younger actors. So some throwbacks like Sterling Hayden, but generally speaking, the cast is on the younger side, whereas this is like all these old guys like trooping out for one last, everyone is a little bit over the hill in this film.
Just a few years before Easy Rider and all those filmmakers kind of came and gave it a new era of Hollywood.
Right, and also like this is directed by Frankenheimer. I mean, how old was Frankenheimer in '64? I mean, he was probably on the younger side as well, actually.
He was born in 1930, so he was in his 30s while making.
Yeah, so Frankenheimer at least is helming this. So there is a young man behind the camera, just as there is in Doctor Strangelove. Kubrick's still pretty young when he makes Strangelove. So
that's true. But also, like, this came out 2 years after The Manchurian Candidate, so he was very much in that kind of political wheelhouse, like dark political wheelhouse.
Well, and there I was saying that maybe these films didn't get made in the 60s, but there's another example. The Manchurian Candidate is another film that looks ahead to the era of the 70s. So what do I know? Anyway. Watch 7 Days in May if you want to watch a film about a coup, or if you want to watch a film about a coup, watch the news.
Also, interestingly enough, this film was written by Rod Serling.
The Twilight Zone.
Yeah, 2020 was a bit of a Twilight Zone episode.
Well, and I think 2021 will be as well. But let's keep watching movies together, folks, and trying to stay sane as we all look towards hopefully a brighter future.